All right, well, thanks for joining us today. Just to let you know, I am recording this today, and feel free to comment anytime during this interview in the comment section. I am Brittany Huntoon, owner and organizer of Brittany Huntoon Professional Organizing. So, and my special guest and interior designer today is Rachel Henry. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Rachel is a wife and a mama of 6, and she is an interior designer. So Rachel, I did a little intro for you, but could you just introduce us, who you are and what it is that you do?
Definitely. Thank you for having me. And yes, I do have a degree in interior design, but before I knew I wanted to do that, I had already gotten married and had one child, or had that child around the same time that I was discovering my interest in design. When I started college, I wanted to do something with art or in the artistic way, but I just kept feeling like I had to have my life plan figured out. And I felt like an art career was kind of uncertain. And I didn't know if it would be worth the investment, and just like, will I be able to get a job? Is this going to be a great thing to do? So I ended up doing elementary education until the end of middle of my junior year. And I only had 2 semesters left, and I was just feeling empty and drained, and it was exhausting me. And I just thought, what else can I do? So I took a semester and went back and took a lot of art classes. And one of those was an interior design class. And it just seemed like the functionality and the purpose behind interior design mixed along with the artistic side and the design side was just a really good combination of where I fit in, of wanting something practical, but still getting to be creative. And so I went that direction. And so I've never worked for like a professional design firm or in that capacity, but have pretty consistently ever since college had small design jobs for family friends, or word of mouth type jobs, and have obviously enjoyed dabbling in my own home, even though having 6 kids, I feel like my own home takes the last of my effort sometimes. So yeah, 6 kids. We now live in Maryland and just moved here this summer. Most recently, we had lived in Alabama. Before that, we traveled the country in a camper for 9 months. And before that, we were in Florida for a couple years. So that's a nutshell
Yeah.
for my.
I feel like we're going to have to do another interview of just your travel, like in the RV. Like, I'm fascinated by that. I've always like, oh, I could do that. That sounds like fun, but then there's the actual doing it part.
It was amazing. I definitely don't regret any part of that decision. So yeah, I would do it again. My kids, they're okay staying in a house.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's awesome. All right. Um, so you did share a little bit of your interior design story and how you became a designer.
Mhm.
Now, what would you say? What is your like interior designer like philosophy? What outcome do you want for your clients and the projects that you do?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the more that I got into just the interior design world, there is so much of it that is purely just for looks, or it's just, I mean, and like obviously there's a wide spectrum of design, and some things just seem so over the top, and it's like you're just doing things to decorate, or like um I don't know, it's just going so far beyond and spending an elaborate amount of money on these things. And that just didn't fall with me the right way. It was like, what's the purpose behind just going all these extra steps? Where for me, it was like, is it functional? So really it boiled down to a more simplistic thing. Like, I want to make design functional for these people, but still make it beautiful, without having to be extremely elaborate. And I guess my design style probably started as a little bit more like, I loved incorporating antiques, and like obviously Joanna Gaines style has taken the country by storm, because it's a very appealing style, and just incorporating the more modern aspects with the older charm. But just as I've gotten more further in my own research and just the way that I live, I definitely have more of an appreciation now for minimal design. and just realizing like the excess stuff that we have and all the clutter, even if that's beautiful decorative stuff, it can still just be excess. And so, in my personal life, that looks like I don't really decorate for any holiday except Christmas. Like I'm not changing my mantle every season with these elaborate designs, and that's more the stuff that I'm talking about as far as like the extras. Like I'm not going to keep changing out my decor just to change my decor. It's more about making a functional space that works well to and really, Brittany, we mentioned this just a couple minutes ago before everyone joined us, but it's really about helping the individual who lives in that space to be able to function at their highest quality. So I know, for organizing and then for design, they both have this aspect where we want the person to be able to think more clearly, to be able to function easier without having so much stuff around them, or the mental clutter that comes from seeing all of your stuff around your house. And that can really aid in healing from emotional or mental problems that you're having. And so, and we can dive more into that now or later if you want to, but
No, that's
that really comes down to what I want for the client, is to get to the point where they're able to function more easily in their home. Things are practical, they make sense, and there's a reason behind the design.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's more than just, yeah, it's nice for things to look pretty, and to have that, aesthetically pleasing look, but it's so much more than just the look of a space. It's definitely more, importantly with what I do as an organizer, it's about the feel of the space as well as, the functionality. Because it's a ripple effect, to the person's whole lifestyle, the space that they live in and how it functions for them. Absolutely. Yeah. And I would have to agree with you. I'm a little more on the minimal side of things. Whenever I've taken those interior design quizzes, I usually lean a little more towards like the Scandinavian minimal, a little bit mid-century modern would kind of be my style, I would say. But definitely becoming a mom, minimal is best for a lot of things, because otherwise that would just be your job, just handling all this stuff, and it takes time, now if it's, not that having stuff is bad, but I feel like, especially in our society, less is more, and we're just thrown with all these advertisements, with all of these things that we should be doing or should have, and it's not necessary for everybody. Everybody's lifestyle is uniquely different to them. So I would absolutely agree with what you're saying. Yeah. So yeah, and feel free to elaborate more, as far as your philosophy or, whatever you care to share.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about, and from your side of things, you come in and you might help someone declutter a space, or just to organize what they have. And a lot of times when a person is pursuing that in their life, they're on this journey of letting go of things and of healing from something, even if it's not like an intentional thing, if they don't even realize they're doing it, but even taking the steps to remove excess from your life and to organize what you have. Like there is some process that person is on towards healing or towards having a better state in their life. And so I think, sometimes that can stem from a trauma or something that was painful in their life. And so they're kind of walking away from that and thinking, I need to do better. I want to improve what I have and live the best life that I can. And so, I know from my own story, I went through a traumatic event once and was able to be removed from my environment and to be in a home that it was a more modern, simple design, but it was a beautiful design. And I was able to take some days in that place. And just later realizing and reflecting on the importance that might have had in those days of healing for me to be able to think and to have that little, that time healing, like the environment around me, how was that affecting me? And there wasn't extra clutter. Everything that was there was for a reason, and it was beautiful. And it allowed my mind then to go on healing in the process that it needed to. And so I just want to commend people who start the journey of decluttering and who are taking those steps, because that shows that you're making an effort to better yourself and your surroundings, and just the importance that that can have of healing your mind and your emotions. And I think that's really important, and we're glad to be a part of that journey with you. And not only then decluttering, but then for an interior designer to come in and say like, yeah, I want to help you make the space beautiful, and that might take some work, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to come in and like put vases on all your shelves and hang pictures on every wall. And like, we're going to leave empty spaces, and that's okay. Like that's good to allow you to have space for your mind and your soul to breathe. And so yeah, I think there's just a lot more psychologically to decluttering and organizing and designing than we sometimes think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Hi, Rhonda. Rhonda's just joining us. I had to mute her here. Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like having, all these things, it can definitely be a distraction, to to what we're going through in life, whether, it's healing or just, living out our life purpose. For me, I know when I had my second child, she didn't like to sleep, and she as well. She's going to be 5 years soon, but I'll say about 4 years old is when she's been starting to sleep through the night. So I haven't, the first 3 years of her life, I didn't get much sleep. If anything, she didn't nap. I remember one night I got an hour and a half of very interrupted sleep. There was just, nothing wrong with her. She's healthy. I'm very thankful, but that lack of sleep, and so things got let go, in my house and in my life, because you're just in survival mode, at that point. And I feel like, a lot of people, they go through, events, they go through trauma, and just things can kind of get out of hand quickly, so to speak. The house gets let go, things get let go, and before you know it, you have, years worth of stuff, to go through and to what I call like declutter or edit. Some people refer to it as editing. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so it is a journey. A lot of people I know, they struggle as far as when it comes to the clutter, they struggle with guilt. They can struggle with letting go of things, whether it's because it was given to them by great uncle Joe, and they feel like they should hold on to this item, or, whether they spent a significant amount of money and, they may not necessarily like this item or this thing, but they spent money on it, so they think they should keep it. So as far as a professional organizer, like part of my job is, yes, I can help them declutter, but there is definitely, we help with the psychological, side of things too. And I think that's kind of, what you're talking about too. It's more mental, and it's almost a spiritual journey for some.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients, they've been empty nesters or people that are looking to retire and kind of start that next phase of life. So have to be very delicate with some things, because there's a lot of memories, in the spaces that they're in. But I also give them permission, or give themselves, my clients, are permission to let go of things, to make room for the new things, for the new adventures, for the new memories too. So absolutely, yeah. It's very much like a holistic approach,
Yeah, definitely.
absolutely. And a lot of times I have found that when my clients, we're going through the decluttering phase, and we're starting to organize, a lot of them, they have this like feeling of just like a burden has been lifted off their shoulders. And so a lot of my clients, yes, they do the decluttering, they do all that, but part of my job that I do help with and I can do is, I can help paint a room, do things like that, just because of my background and skill level. But a lot of people, they want to do the whole shebang, they want to do the decluttering, but then they also want to redo the room. So, and I think as far as like a professional organizer, interior designer, they kind of like complement each other so well. They kind of go together. So it's just, it's like peanut butter and jelly. You know what I mean? They're kind of two different things, but they go well together. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely. All right. Oh yeah. So I was going to say the next thing I was going to ask about was similarities and differences of an interior designer and a professional organizer. So I feel like I touched a little bit, on that, and we've been talking about that intermittently. But what do you think is the main difference from an interior designer perspective that you do that a professional organizer doesn't necessarily do?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you would come in and you would help. I know, I mean, you could maybe say this better than I could what you do. But from my perspective, what you do is if someone, has a job in their house where there are closets, a basement, whatever, and they're just like, this is such a big job. I don't know how to tackle getting through all this stuff. And if I'm supposed to get rid of it or keep it. And then once I decide what to keep, how do I put it in a way that's going to make sense and be organized? So that's really where you shine. And a lot of that is I mean, like you said, you don't want to make people feel bad. And so some of it's confrontational, what you do, because you're like, do you really need this? And you should get rid of this. And that can really, I mean, like we've been saying, be an emotional process for people to go through. And so that's something that, I mean, and that might be more your personality. Like I am so unconfrontational where I'd be like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to get into that with these people. But you have been gifted in that way where you can do that and help people process that information. But where I would come in then is more like, okay, we want to make this space beautiful. What do you love? Well, like, let's not talk about what you had to get rid of. Let's talk about what you love and how you feel your best and what makes you, feel good and have a good outlook about your life. And let's make the space help you in that journey. So it's more about color palette, about the furniture, the texture of things, what you see visually when you walk into a room and how it makes you feel.
Absolutely. So, and can you just, so how does that process work? So, say if somebody wanted to, hire an interior designer, how does that look and what can people expect from you?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously usually something that they want to change. They know that something's not quite right. And sometimes they know what that is. And sometimes they're just like, I need help with this space. Um, I mean, a lot of times people, I mean, especially today, it's like you can see so many examples, Pinterest, all that. You can see so many examples of what you like that a lot of times you have a direction you want to go. And people just sometimes feel like they don't know how to get to that point. And so they want someone to come in and help them. So it would look like helping choose the specific paint color because there's millions. And like, how do I choose just one that's going to go on this wall? And, like to me, it seems like, well, that's not that hard of a decision, but that's just because that's how my brain thinks. And I have to remind myself, like, some people really like, they don't know just because they don't think that way, or, they have giftings in other areas. And so even something simple like that is really important in the process. And then, choosing furniture or whatever, sometimes it's just they don't have time to look for things. And so they want someone and just say, you choose, and here's my budget and go for it. It's in like interior design firms, sometimes they have access to furnishings that the general public wouldn't have access to, but with that comes a much higher price tag, which just as we were talking about all the excess design, a lot of the cost of things really is a turn off to me. Just, I don't think you should have to pay so much crazy money to have a house that is functional and looks good. So generally I do shop where the public can shop because that's where prices are affordable. And I mean, I think I had this down for later, but like, I really love helping people find something they have in their house already that we can repurpose, or finding secondhand items that we can reuse. And that's obviously way more cost effective. You can give something a new life, so it's more green and better for the earth, and a lot of times then you're supporting other people instead of supporting big box stores. So there's just a lot of pros to doing that. And so that's probably one area that I appreciate. What was the question again? Oh yeah, what does it look like for an interior designer to work with you? So that's kind of some of the process of those few things that you can go through. But I've also helped, it's like if someone's, I helped a client once that they were redoing, building onto their house and doing a whole new addition. So with that was like a new bathroom. And that just involves a lot more materials that you're choosing. So like what floor, what tile, what are we going to do in our shower, our tub, our sinks, our faucets, the paint color, the lights. Like, I mean, there's so many little details to that. And so helping them choose that, and it turned out beautifully. And now they're really happy with their space.
That's amazing. Yeah, there is definitely a lot that goes into that. So you would also like manage the project as well. Is
Yeah, I could.
okay.
And it depends on the person. That family specifically, they were overseeing their entire remodel, but then they wanted me to come in and help specifically with their bathrooms. So something like that, but if someone wanted me to oversee the whole remodel, that's something that can be done. And then an interior designer can be the go-between with the contractor. But that specific family was doing that part of it and just wanted me to come in for the design.
Okay. All right. Now, so you would help people, like I know for me, when you were talking about colors, like there are so many colors, out there. And then, how do you choose the best color, for a space, and what does that look like? Like, how do you go about choosing a color? Do you have any advice for like do-it-yourselfers?
I mean, honestly, there's no reason for me to reinvent the wheel. There are so many available things to help people choose. I mean, number one, go to Pinterest and search like best gray color or best white color or whatever. And there's probably a top 5 list with multiple paint companies that you can choose from, and you can see rooms that they're in and all this. And it's always a good idea to see what it might look like in your space. But a lot of times, there's a reason that those colors are the most popular. It's because they've been tried and true, and they're going to work well in a lot of spaces. I know that Sherwin-Williams also has a great resource on their site to find your color palette, kind of like what your color mood is. And so that's a really good resource just if you're like, I don't know what color I want to use. That's a good place to start, and just to use the resources available, because they want to help you succeed too. And so, yeah, that's probably about it.
Okay. All right. Where do you look for your interior design, like, to get ideas and inspiration?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Do you like bloggers or like where do you look? I know there's Pinterest, you know what I mean? But like, is there anything specific that you found
I
useful as an interior designer?
I used to do a lot more of reading of bloggers, just because blogs used to be more prevalent, and like there wasn't Instagram and Pinterest and all that. So I used to be more on them. 2 people that I'd followed was one is Lauren Lease. Her last name is Liess.
Okay.
And I just have followed her for years. Like, she is a very natural design. Um, what is the word I'm looking for? Her design style, there we go, style is very natural and down to earth. So she uses a lot of things from nature and is very inspired by nature. And the more that I would look at her work, the more that I love it. And it's always going to be beautiful because it's timeless. Like, there's this element of timeless quality with anything from nature. And so then, that can go further to like, well, when you're choosing finishes for your tile or for surfaces in your home, choosing things that are natural elements like wood and stone, and these things that are probably going to stay really quality, and they won't go out of style as quickly because they've come from the earth. And so, and I don't know her background necessarily, but she's just continued to grow and increase herself as a brand now. And she still does interior design, but just like so personable in her approach. So that's one place that I've really enjoyed her design style. I used to love Domino magazine. I don't know if they still print their magazine, but it's kind of a little bit more like edgy, modern, like, bright colors in the house, and but then they just like show more modern design, but incorporated with, I don't know, it's just a really unique approach, and it kind of got me to be more creative in my design and think outside the box instead of just saying, oh, this person did this on Pinterest and so I just want my house to look like that. It was like, I want to be creative in my space. What can I do to this wall? And like, should I apply this like crazy paint mural to it? And I can, because I'm being creative. And like, yeah, I never saw that on Pinterest, but it just gets you creative in your own space. And I mean, if I'm honest now, just for the quickness of it, if I'm like, oh, I want to design a kitchen that has a huge island and windows at the sink, like I would look on Pinterest and narrow down what I like, and then it will start showing you like hundreds of other pictures just like that. And you're like, okay, this gives me a lot of ideas. So narrowing it down that way is helpful.
Right. Okay. And how did you said Lauren Lease, Leiss?
Liess.
Liess. And it's Lauren.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody was just asking in the chat, so I'm just gonna. Okay. All right. All right. That's awesome. So, as an interior designer, what do you think your superpower is? Describe that for me. Where
Yeah.
do you really, really excel? Like, what is your like favorite aspect of being an interior designer, or your favorite room or space to design?
Okay. I mean, I know I mentioned this already, but I really think that my superpower is being able to help people have a beautiful space without having to pay crazy amounts of money. And so, like I already mentioned, taking the time to shop secondhand, to find things in their home, and a lot of like DIY, repainting something, giving something new life, using it in a way that it wasn't being used before. I really think that one of my focuses is that like I want the average person to be able to use a designer and not feel like that's out of reach for them. And many designers are very, very expensive. And so then that limits who's able to afford them. And so the people that have the huge houses are the people that can afford the designers. And so that's why they all have these beautiful houses. Well, I want people that have my size house to be able to also afford to have an interior designer and to be able to make their space beautiful. And so that's probably just where I would say my little niche is, and to be able to help friends and family and making things work well for them. And a lot of people like to just ask little opinions about things, and so just happy to lend a hand.
Absolutely. It's always good to have that interior designer, person in your back pocket for when you're remodeling or, building new or moving or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so hiring an interior designer is not out of reach for everybody.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Okay. All right. What is your latest project or current project that you are working on? And then where can people find more about you if they want to see some of your work and just get to know you?
I'll tell you, I'll answer that one first. Maybe we can put this in the comments too. I can leave my email if someone wanted to reach out that way, or my phone number through text. I'm also on Facebook, just as Rachel Henry. It might include my husband's name, Simon. I need to look up my actual like profile username.
Okay.
But let's see. We lived in the camper for 9 months. And so I obviously wasn't designing anything then. I did recover the little window coverings in the camper. Oh, I didn't mention that. I love to sew. That might be like, I love sewing. I've done a lot of window treatments for people, custom Roman shades, huge draperies, whatever, soft treatments like pillows. And I've attempted recovering a couch for myself once. That's a learning experience. But so I love the soft goods as far as being able to make them at home. But I didn't really do any design in the camper, obviously. And previous to that, we had been living in Florida for 3 years, and we had just moved there, and I was homeschooling my kids, and it was all new people that I knew, and none of them really knew my background in interior design. So honestly, I didn't really do anything for like 3 years. And we were renting our house, so I couldn't do any projects to the house. In one hand, it was nice to have that mental freedom to say, I don't have to worry about keeping up, with the paint color of my house. I don't have to worry about, oh, how am I going to make this wall just be this, focal wall? Like, I didn't have that to worry about. And maybe that was a good season for me, just to be able to focus on my kids and homeschooling them. And I didn't care. The house was painted this awful, like, nursing home pale cream color, but it was a rental. And it's like, oh, well, what am I going to do? So that it worked out. So previous to that, we had lived in Indiana, and that was really probably where I had the most, that is where I had all of my work previously. And we had moved into a home, and our biggest job we did there was taking out a wall between a hallway and a living room and opening up that space, and then laying new flooring. And we installed a bench seat with like reclaimed wood behind it. Okay. And so that project in itself was like a big transformation, and it made that space really beautiful. And had done several window treatments around that same time for other people. So that's probably the most recent, even though it's not very recent. So I'm ready to get my wheels rolling again.
So if somebody wanted to, hire you, you are for hire.
Yes.
So, okay. All right. And I'll put all of the information in the Facebook.
Yeah, we could
contact information.
Yeah, that'd be great
too. So yeah.
Yeah, we can get straight to it.
All right. Okay. So we're going to do a Q&A. So if you guys have anybody in the chat has any specific questions they'd like to ask Rachel, or me, go ahead and let me know in the chat box. So, and then Rachel, as people are hopefully going to ask us some questions. Is there anything else that you would like to add, or any ideas that kind of popped in your mind during the interview that you'd like to share with us? Because I know you have some notes written down. I just want to make sure I give you the opportunity to.
Yeah, let me look over them and see if I missed anything. I guess, we said this a little bit already, but just to hear it from you, just to be able to clarify, if somebody wants, like, when would someone reach out to me instead of to you? Like, if they want to make their space beautiful, when should they reach out to you? Like, not how bad does it have to be for them to get it organized, but like, at what point are they like, I think I need more help than just beautifying the space. I think I need help organizing it. Like, what's that process look like for you?
Absolutely. So as a professional organizer and working with my clients, one of the first things I do is I have like a questionnaire. So we definitely go through, what is working in the space, what isn't working in the space. What results do you want? Like, what do you want? It's a simple question, but it really makes you think. And typically the first response to that question, what do you want in this space? What do you want this to look like? It's not necessarily the look like we talked about earlier. It's about feeling, how you want to feel in this space. So I kind of do a little bit of a deep dive as much as my clients are comfortable with. And then we work from there. So, we find our why we're doing this in the first place. And then we go on to the next best steps. So I definitely have an organizing process. And it's more than just, organizing is just one word. But there are, in my opinion, about 8 different steps that are considered organizing. So there is definitely the goals, and setting time, on your calendar. So to actually do these things, so knowing our why, setting our goals, and marking time to actually do these things, to actually organize. And then the first step in the organizing process would be the decluttering phase. So that is decluttering, getting rid of things that you don't want, don't need, and then sorting them. So then after you sort your items, um, whether that is, and I use the sort method, it stands for save, offload, relocate, and trash or recycle. Um, and so that's the process, the method that I help my clients with. And then after we sort, then there's the categorizing phase. So you want to categorize like things with like items. So if we're organizing a bathroom, for an example, you want to organize, your toiletries, that would be one category. And then you have your linens, maybe your towels, things like that. That would be another category. And then you have your body items, and then you have your eye care, and then you know what I mean. So everything goes in a category, and then we would from there we would um, put them either in bins or place them. So we call that placement. So we categorize, we place, and then we work on the aesthetics usually during that time, which is, where people want to paint, or we're buying, product, to put things in, to reorganize whatever it is. We're putting shelves in, things like that. And then the secret ingredient that most people don't think about is, once everything is placed, that's kind of where they stop. But I take it one step further. And we focus on maintenance and setting up systems that will work for you day in and day out. So because a lot of people, I feel like they reorganize or move things around, but they either don't edit out things that they don't need, or they don't set up systems to maintain those things. And what I mean by systems, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can simply be, just, okay, every quarter, or every season, I want to go through the bathroom items, see what's expired, what we aren't using, what we can donate, things like that. Or just setting up a clipboard system. Maybe you have a closet inside your bathroom, and you can write things as far as like, oh, we're running low on shampoo, I need to write that down. So it kind of takes that mental load off, like, oh, we need shampoo. You're in the shower, taking a shower, I need shampoo, and you're trying to remember to, put it in your phone when you get out or whatever. Having something as simple as like a clipboard that you can like write your shopping list on can be really helpful. And then you can just snap a picture of it with your phone, and then you have it with you when you go to the store, or the next time you order whatever you order online. So it takes a little bit of like thinking through how your family and, how things would work best for you, if that makes sense. So, I hope that kind of made sense. So organizing is, yes, it's organizing, but there's, definitely steps to it. And I help break it down too, so it's more manageable. You know what I mean? Instead of just, you open the door to this room full of stuff and you're like, where do I start? Well, let me help you. I'll tell you where we need to start, so it's part of what I do is coaching too. It's that coaching, as well as either physically being there or helping virtually as well, because I do virtual organizing, as well. So
Yeah, you're really setting people up for success is what, it's not
absolutely.
just leaving them high and dry, but making sure that they're going to be able to continue what you started.
Absolutely. Yep. And everybody's different, so one system may work for somebody, but, it might not work for this person. So it's definitely depends on each individual, and how they think through things. So absolutely. All right. Let's see. I don't see any questions in the chat box. So I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up, unless you have something else that you want to add, Rachel. Or any other questions for me, or?
This is not anything revolutionary, but I did want to make sure I say, like, talking about minimizing our spaces and living with beautiful surroundings. But just wanted to be like completely real with you. Like, I live in a very small house right now with 8 people in my house. And so like my room, I'm in my bedroom right now, but it has our bedroom, like that cabinet back there, that's actually full of all of our family games. And like yesterday, they were all over the floor right there because my daughter dumped them all out. But anyway, um, but then like on this side of the room, we have 2 desks set up. We have a cabinet with a printer, then we have a bookshelf, and then on the side of that is my ironing board. And then my desk has a sewing machine and a basket of stuff to be sewn, and on my floor is the case for the sewing machine.
Mhm.
And then I teach preschool, so my preschool bag's next to that, and then my stack of magazines. So like I don't want people to think that just because I promote these things means that I live perfectly, and like I am still on a journey of my own and I, even though I know my goal and what I want my space to look like, it doesn't mean that I'm there yet, but I'm still in the process and I'm still on the journey. And so I think sometimes, like allowing the imperfection to show through is important, that people don't feel, because it's, it can be an insecure thing and very vulnerable letting someone see your space. And I'm not letting you see mine right now because like it's a mess right here right now. But
Mhm.
that can be very vulnerable. But I want people to know that like I don't live perfectly and I don't have the magazine picture house. And so even though I can help people make their space beautiful, it doesn't mean that they should be nervous about inviting us into their spaces, because we've been there too, and maybe we're still there in certain parts of our lives. So I think that's really important for people to realize.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, as a professional organizer too, like I know I kind of hold my organizing standards a bit high for myself that, I have, a husband, 2 kids and a dog, and we live in our house, Um, so that is definitely something. And we have a lot of like unfinished projects that we're working on right now currently. Um, well, currently we are painting the house. And then after that, we started a bathroom remodel and then life happened. And then we haven't touched it in like 5 years. So at this point, it needs like another remodel because we're looking also to probably sell our house maybe this spring sometime. So definitely finishing up those unfinished projects, replacing the windows, replacing the door and the flooring, and all of that. So right now things are very minimal in my house. And so when it comes to, organizing and showing stuff, I'm like, how about not? Because with having so many of these, unfinished projects or things that we're working on, things aren't necessarily in their space or where I would like them to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get it. I get it. Now, are you guys still, I know we had talked about this. I hope this is okay to share that you're looking to also build in the near future.
Hey, that was the plan, but this
Okay.
whole Corona thing has made the price of wood like 6 times what it was starting out in January of this year. And so just economically, it's not a good time to build, which makes me so sad because I really wanted to be able to pour out my design dream babies into a real house. But so at this point, we are still looking to relocate and find a house that fits our family, and that we can, have our friends and family come stay with us. Like we love to host and all that. So we're still looking. I wouldn't mind a house that needs some remodeling, but building's off the table right now.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Rachel, for doing this interview. And if you want to just go through one more time, where can people find you to either work with you or learn more about what you do?
Yeah. In the chat, I went ahead and put my email address and my phone number.
Okay.
Those are both available for contact. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do Instagram very actively, or Facebook, but I can still be reached through those. And we'll either put those in the chat or in a comment somewhere.
Okay.
Something. That's, yeah.
And where can they find you on Instagram? Is it?
I believe it is Simon and Rachel 06. So Simon, SIMON AND RACHEL 06.
All right, perfect. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And thank you, Rachel. And we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, Brittany.
Bye.
Bye.